Title: The shocking truth emerges when the 18-year-old virgin is humiliated for marrying a poor farmer. Chapter 1: The Mysterious Beginning. From the very first moment, an eerie silence hung over the old farmhouse, broken only by the faint rustle of leaves stirred by an unseen breeze. Strange shadows flickered across the cracked walls, as if the house itself held secrets desperate to be uncovered. Every creak of the floorboards echoed like a whispered warning, while outside, the distant howl of a lone wolf sent chills down the spine. Something was undeniably wrong, a hidden truth lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to unravel. The air grew thick with anticipation as unexplained lights danced in the darkness, and the townsfolks hushed. Rumor spoke of an ancient curse that no one dared to challenge. Each strange occurrence piled upon the last, weaving a tangled web of mystery that pulled the reader deeper into the story, craving to know what sinister forces were at play. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important alert. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button down below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any the comments. What city are you watching from? I love meeting every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. As the eerie silence settled in, Claire felt the weight of the night pressing down on her. She stood in the shadowy hallway of the farmhouse, her heart pounding like a drum. Every creak of the old wood felt like a ghostly whisper, urging her to flee. But she couldn't turn back. Not now. Suddenly, each step felt heavier, stained with the whispers of the past. Heart racing, she reached the attic door. It creaked as she pushed it open. The sight before her stole her breath. Piled high were old boxes and forgotten relics. But in the center of it all, a shimmering light pulsed like a heartbeat. Mesmerized, Claire took a step closer, her fingers trembling as they brushed against a faded journal lying open on a dusty trunk. The words seemed to call out to her, dripping with the weight of untold stories. The curse binds the land to blood, and a secret will shatter innocence, it read. Panic stirred in her chest as she realized this was no ordinary journal. It was her family's. The air crackled with tension as fragments of buried truths clawed at her mind. She flipped through the pages frantically, her heart sinking with each revelation. Suddenly, she heard a rustling behind her. She turned, expecting to confront a ghost. Instead, it was Tom, her husband, standing in the doorway. His face was pale, eyes wide with horror. "Claire, you shouldn't be here," he gasped, stepping forward. His voice trembled, echoing the fear in the shadows around them. But before she could respond, a chilling howl echoed through the night, the unmistakable cry of the wolf. The sound sent a shiver racing down her spine, and she turned back toward the attic's depths. That's when it happened. A shadow darker than the night itself swept through the room, enveloping Tom. Claire gasped, her chest tightening as she reached for him. But he was changing. His features twisted, face contorting in agony. "Claire!" he cried, his voice warped, melding into something monstrous. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she realized the horrifying truth. Tom was bound to the curse as well. A pulse of raw power rushed through the air, and suddenly everything around them brightened with a blinding light. Claire stumbled back, the room spinning as she grasped for reality. In that moment, everything shifted. Memories flashed before her eyes. Laughter, whispered secrets, a wedding surrounded by love. But with each recollection came the dark realization that Tom had always known. The weight of love and betrayal collided, leaving her breathless and trembling. The townsfolk's whispers of a deadly secret were true. As the blinding light faded, Claire found herself standing alone in the dim attic. Tom was gone. The journal lay open at her feet, a portal to a past she thought she understood. Panic gripped her. What had she unleashed? What had he hidden? The fear coursed through her veins like ice. She felt the walls closing in. Claire knew she had to uncover the truth. The chilling thought settled in. Who was Tom really? And what darkness had he unleashed? The urgency clawed at her as she felt the walls closing in, promising that the real horror was just beginning. Claire stood frozen, the world around her spinning like a cruel joke. The journal felt heavy in her hands, a burden she never asked for. She could still hear Tom's cry echoing in her ears, a mix of terror and pain. Desperation clawed at her heart. "Tom!" she shouted again, voice cracking, but only the oppressive silence answered. Suddenly, the air shifted. A cold breeze whipped through the attic, making the fluttering pages of the journal dance wildly. Claire squinted into the darkness, her senses on high alert. That's when she saw it. A flicker of movement in the corner, a figure emerging from the shadows. With a gasp, she took a step back, ready to bolt. But then she recognized the figure. "Mom?" The word escaped her lips like a prayer. Claire's mother, Sarah, stood in the doorway, her expression a strange mix of regret and fear. The shadows clung to her, making her look almost ghostly. "Claire, you need to leave." Sarah's voice was strained, each word sharp like a knife. "You don't understand." "What do you mean?" Panic welled within Claire. "What's happening? Where's Tom? What do you know?" I can't explain right now," Sarah stammered, stepping closer. She reached out, but then stopped herself. Fear flickered in her eyes. "You have to believe me. It's not what you think. We're not safe here." "Not safe? From what?" Claire's frustration bubbled over. But deep inside, a raw intuition whispered that her mother held the key to all the twisted threads. Sarah took a deep breath, glancing nervously at the attic entrance. "You don't understand the curse. It's about bloodlines, Claire. Our bloodline? It's tainted. Tom's family. They've been tied to the curse for generations. And you are the one who can break it, or seal it forever." Claire's heart raced. "What? Break it? How? By what? Marrying him?" Her voice dripped with disbelief. "No," Sarah snapped. "You need to understand. The curse goes deeper. Your union, it's what they wanted. It was planned from the very beginning to trap you both. They knew." A thundering sound echoed outside, shaking the very foundation of the farmhouse. Claire's eyes widened, a gut-wrenching fear eclipsing all reason. "What is that?" Before her mother could reply, another figure emerged from the doorway. Evan, Claire's brother, his form shadowy and tense. "Mom, we have to go, now!" His voice sliced through the air like glass. "Evan?" Claire's throat tightened. "What's going on?" "They're coming! They know!" Evan shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. His eyes darted back, filled with panic. "I thought we had more time." "Who's coming?" Claire's breath quickened as dread settled heavily in her stomach. "Not who, what?" Sarah interjected, her expression shifting into one of pure terror. "Every curse has a warden, Claire. We've been hunted all along. When they find you, they'll end it all." Claire's heart dropped. She felt something ominous closing in, a presence lurking just beyond the walls. It was as if time had warped, reality shifting beneath her feet. She glanced at her mother and brother, questions swirling like a storm in her mind. "We have to find Tom." But before she could bolt for the stairs, a dark, billowing shadow slithered into the attic. It twisted and turned, engulfing her family. They screamed, voices blending into a horrific chorus of despair. Claire stumbled back, terror-stricken. "No!" She reached out for them, but shadows consumed one after the other. "Mom! Evan!" And then there was silence. The attic closed in on her, suffocating her spirit. Alone, she was left with the journal, its pages pulsing with a sickening energy. Everything she knew shattered like glass around her. She felt a weight of terrifying choice bearing down. Was she truly the key to the curse? Where were her family members now? She clutched the journal tighter, the words blurring in her vision. "What have I done?" she whispered, breath hitching in her throat. A chilling realization washed over her. The most shocking truth had yet to unveil itself. Claire stood frozen, the world around her spinning like a cruel joke. The journal felt heavy in her hands, a burden she never asked for. She could still hear Tom's cry echoing in her ears, a mix of terror and pain. Desperation clawed at her heart. "Tom!" she shouted again, voice cracking, but only the oppressive silence answered. Suddenly, the air shifted. A cold breeze whipped through the attic, making the fluttering pages of the journal dance wildly. Claire squinted into the darkness, her senses on high alert. That's when she saw it, a flicker of movement in the corner, a figure emerging from the shadows. With a gasp, she took a step back, ready to bolt, but then she recognized the figure. "Mom?" The word escaped her lips like a prayer. Claire's. Mother, Sarah, stood in the doorway, her expression a strange mix of regret and fear. The shadows clung to her, making her look almost ghostly. "Claire, you need to leave." Sarah's voice was strained, each word sharp like a knife. "You don't understand." "What do you mean?" Panic welled within Claire. "What's happening? Where's Tom? What do you know?" I can't explain right now," Sarah stammered, stepping closer. She reached out, but then stopped herself. Fear flickered in her eyes. "You have to believe me. It's not what you think. We're not safe here." "Not safe? From what?" Claire's frustration bubbled over, but deep inside, a raw intuition whispered that her mother held the key to all the twisted threads. Sarah took a deep breath, glancing nervously at the attic entrance. "You don't understand the curse. It's about bloodlines, Claire. Our bloodline, it's tainted. Tom's family, they've been tied to the curse for generations. And you are the one who can break it. or seal it forever. Claire's heart raced. What? Break it? How? By what, marrying him? Her voice dripped with disbelief. No, Sarah snapped. You need to understand. The curse goes deeper. Your union, it's what they wanted. It was planned from the very beginning, to trap you both. They knew. A thundering sound echoed outside, shaking the very foundation of the farmhouse. Claire's eyes widened, a gut-wrenching fear eclipsing all reason. What is that? Before her mother could reply, another figure emerged from the doorway. Evan, Claire's brother, his form shadowy and tense. Mom, we have to go, now! His voice sliced through the air like glass. Evan? Claire's throat tightened. What's going on? They're coming! They know! Evan shouted, adrenaline pumping through his veins. His eyes darted back, filled with panic. I thought we had more time. Who's coming? Claire's breath quickened as dread settled heavily in her stomach. Not who. What? Sarah interjected, her expression shifting into one of pure terror. Every curse has a warden, Claire. We've been hunted all along. When they find you, they'll end it all. Claire's heart dropped. She felt something ominous closing in, a presence lurking just beyond the walls. It was as if time had warped, reality shifting beneath her feet. She glanced at her mother and brother, questions swirling like a storm in her mind. We have to find Tom! But before she could bolt for the stairs, a dark, billowing shadow slithered into the attic. It twisted and turned, engulfing her family. They screamed, voices blending into a horrific chorus of despair. Claire stumbled back, terror-stricken. No! She reached out for them, but shadows consumed, one after the other. Mom! Evan! And then there was silence. The attic closed in on her, suffocating her spirit. Alone, she was left with the journal, its pages pulsing with a sickening energy. Everything she knew shattered like glass around her. She felt a weight of terrifying choice bearing down. Was she truly the key to the curse? Suddenly, a loud thud echoed in the attic, shaking her to her core. From the darkness emerged not a monster, but Tom, his face pale, eyes hollow. Claire, he shouted, voice raw with desperation. You have to trust me. I can explain. She felt relief surge through her, but mixed with fear. What's happening? You were under their control, he interjected, stepping closer. But I found a way to break it. You have to listen. Break it? How? His lips curled into a deep frown. By revealing the truth. All of it. He paused, something shifting in his expression. You're not who you think. You are, Claire. You're not just part of this curse. You're the reason behind it. Every nerve in Claire's body froze. What do you mean? The tension in the air thickened as he spoke again, words dripping with horror. You're the last descendant of the original family. The curse was never meant for Tom. It was meant for you. You and I were meant to be the sacrifice. Claire's world turned upside down. Her breath caught in her throat. The weight of his words crashed over her like a wave. Betrayal surged through her like fire. Tom wasn't just tied to this curse. He was its architect. Why? She whispered, tears slicking her cheeks. Why would you? Because I loved you. I thought I could save you, he cried, anguish twisting his features. But now it's too late. The shadows stirred, a dark force wrapping around them both. Claire's heart raced as everything spiraled into chaos. Trust shattered into a million pieces, leaving only dread. Who was Tom really, and what darkness had he unleashed? "I need to know!" she screamed, shaking with urgency. But the darkness surged again, swallowing her voice in the abyss. In that moment, she realized a devastating truth. The curse was far from over, and the worst was yet to come. Claire's heart thudded painfully in her chest as Tom's words settled like heavy stones in her stomach. The truth twisted her insides, cold and unyielding. She stepped back, feeling as if the ground beneath her was vanishing. "You can't mean that," she whispered, trying to grasp the reality of what he had just revealed. The shadows around them thickened, pulsing with a life of their own. "I do!" Tom's voice cracked, desperation bleeding into every syllable. "The bloodline binds us both, Claire. You need to understand that." Tears blurred her vision. "But I thought we could break this together." She sought his eyes, hoping for a spark of shared belief, but found only torment reflected back. "Together?" he echoed bitterly. "No, Claire. You were always meant to be the key to this nightmare, and they've been watching." Before she could take another breath, a loud crash echoed outside, shaking the walls of the attic. Dust fell like snowflakes, and a gust of wind howled through, snatching at the corners of the journal. Panic surged through Claire. "What is happening?" Suddenly, the room grew dangerously cold. A figure began to materialize on the other side of the attic, emerging from the very shadows that held her family captive. It stepped forward, and Claire's breath caught in her throat. The face was familiar, hauntingly so. It was her mother, but not the Sarah she knew. This woman had eyes like ice, and a shadow of a smirk playing on her lips. "Mom, no!" Claire practically screamed, trying to ignore the way fear crept like a vine around. "I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request." The figure pressed, stepping closer, her voice dropping to a lethal whisper. "You've always had the power, Claire. I've merely guided you, prepared you. It was I who drove the curse to you, and now it's time you accepted your legacy." A wave of shock washed over Claire. The foundation of her world crumbled, replaced by a gut-wrenching betrayal. "You were in on this?" she gasped, struggling to process this new horror. How could she have been so blind to the truth? You set this all in motion." A sinister smile crept across her mother's face. "Your whole life has been a preparation, my dear. A perfect setup to become what's needed to maintain balance. A curse is a powerful thing, and your bloodline holds the essence to keep it alive." The egg felt like it was closing in, shadows around them pulsating with energy. Tom glanced at Claire, fear etched into his brow, but it was more than just fear. There was realization. "You're lying!" he shouted, backing away. But Claire knew the truth hit harder than any denial. "No!" Claire cried out, but the very walls seemed to mock her. "This can't be happening. I refuse to believe it." With a sudden shift in the air, the darkness surged forward. Shadows twisted and moved, and Claire felt a pull, urging her towards the malevolent figure of her mother. She turned, the journal slipping from her hands as it fell. Open! pages fluttering wildly. And in that instant, the attic seemed to explode with light. Tom was gone, and Claire barely registered the sound of her mother's cackling laughter as she dominated the darkness. The very essence of what she loved, what she fought to protect, vanished before her. Claire stood alone, suffocating in a reality that spun wildly out of control. What have I done? She thought in horror, sensing the curse tightening its grip. She was left with fragments of truth swirling chaotically, leaving only one question echoing painfully in her mind. Could she even trust herself? The room exploded with light, and for a moment, Claire felt suspended in time. The shadows recoiled, and she closed her eyes. Against the blinding brightness, she could hear her own heart beating wildly like a trapped bird. Then the light dimmed. She opened her eyes to find herself standing in the attic again, but everything felt different. The familiar creaks of the wooden floor now carried an ominous weight. The journal lay open before her, pages quaking as if alive. But Tom was nowhere in sight. "Where are you?" she gasped, heart racing. The oppressive silence echoed back, swallowing her question whole. Then she heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible whisper. It was low, sinister, weaving through the air around her. "Claire, you should have never come here." Her stomach twisted as she recognized the voice. It was her mother's, or the shadow that wore her face. "No, you're not my mom!" But the figure stepped forward again, dark and swirling, and Claire felt a cold grip closing around her heart. "Oh, but I am. I've always been, and so are you." "Stop!" Claire shouted, her voice trembling. "You're lying!" The shadow laughed, a chilling sound that sent a shiver down her spine. "You still don't see it, do you? The truth is much darker than you've ever imagined." "Stop it!" Claire clamped her hands over her ears. But the darkness felt suffocating. What truth? As if in response, the light flickered and the attic swirled into a different scene. Images flashed before her eyes, moments from her life. But they weren't just her memories. They were twisted versions, showing her mother holding another baby, one that looked just like Claire, but with darker features and glowing eyes. "No!" Claire cried out, backing away. "That's not me." "Oh, but it is. You are but a vessel, dear Claire. The light and dark bound together in one. A true mirror of your bloodline. You thought you were the last, but you're simply a pawn in a game much larger than yourself." The air crackled around her, whispers growing into a cacophony. Images of her family, her mother's haunting smile, her brother's last frightened glance before darkness consumed him, filled her head. Each moment echoed painfully, a reminder of everything she had lost. What game? Why? Because you were never meant to break the curse. You were meant to perpetuate it, the shadowed figure hissed, advancing closer. "You see, for every curse there must be a keeper, and you are that keeper." "No, I won't!" Claire shouted, defiance igniting her. Then something shifted. The walls of the attic trembled, shaking violently, and a low rumble echoed beneath her feet. "It's too late to fight, Claire," the shadow figure proclaimed, its voice growing in intensity. "They are coming, and you won't be able to stop the inevitable." In a moment of sheer terror, Claire felt the floor drop beneath her. The shadow lunged, darkness wrapping around her like chains, pulling her down. And just when she thought all hope was lost, a piercing scream erupted through the air. "Claire, no!" It was Tom's voice, filled with anguish. She felt a surge of warmth. Was it hope? The weight of darkness loosened for just a moment. Was he here to save her? "No!" the figure shrieked, rage twisting its face. "You cannot look to him. He is your enemy." But the sound of Tom's voice ignited a fierce determination within her. "Tom!" she screamed, hoping against all odds that he could hear her. "Help me!" The shadows trembled, and in that split second, Claire caught a glimpse, a flicker of light breaking through the darkness, dazzling her eyes. Tom appeared in her line of sight. Urgency etched upon his features, and in that moment, everything felt electric. But then she saw it. The expression in his eyes, a mix of love and something else, something darker. "Claire," he said, panting, "you need to listen to me now. We might not have much time." Suddenly, everything shifted again. "No, no more lies," Claire shouted, feeling a burning anger swell in her chest. "What do you mean?" The shadow around her twisted violently, as if enraged. "The truth is here, Claire," it roared. "You are not just a keeper, you are the curse itself." And as the words sank in, a horrifying clarity struck her like a blow. The betrayal, the fear, the weight of the curse all crashed into her. "What does that even mean?" she whispered, fear crawling up her spine. Tom's eyes widened, and Claire felt the world spinning again. Then, in a surreal moment, she stumbled. The ground beneath her gave way completely, and she was falling into darkness. But in that instant, amidst everything, she glimpsed it. The truth she never wanted to face. Was it really possible? Could she be the thing her mother had become? The answer hung in the air, heavy and suffocating, as she plummeted into the unknown, leaving everything she thought she understood behind. As Claire fell, the darkness enveloped her like a thick fog, smothering her senses. She felt weightless, suspended in a void, where time stretched endlessly. Just as despair clawed at her heart, a sudden force jolted her from her descent. She landed hard, the impact knocking the breath from her lungs. Gasping for air, Claire scrambled to her feet, shaking her head to clear the disorientation. She found herself in a damp, dimly lit chamber. The walls were lined with old stone, rough and cold against her skin. Shadows danced menacingly, whispers echoing around her, taunting her to remember. "Tom!" she shouted, her voice barely rising above the whispers. But the sound seemed to spiral away into the darkness. Suddenly, a blinding light erupted in front of her. Claire squinted, shielding her eyes. As the brightness faded, she staggered back, her heart racing at the sight before her. It was her mother. "Mom?" Claire's voice wavered, fear and confusion swirling within her. "How are you here? Claire, listen." Sarah's voice was urgent, sharp. The look in her eyes was different now, filled with a frantic desperation that set Claire's heart racing. "It's not what you think. You have to trust me." The shadows behind Sarah stirred again, ominously swirling closer. "No! Stay away from her!" Claire shouted, instinctively stepping in front of her mother. but the shadows lunged. "You think you're safe?" The distorted voice dripped with mockery. "You were never meant to escape." Suddenly, the ground trembled. Light flickered like a dying flame. In that moment of chaos, Sarah's hands shot out, gripping Claire's shoulders tightly. "You have to understand. You were meant to find out the truth." But before she could finish, everything shattered. The walls cracked open, revealing a swirling void. No longer just shadows, they became figures, twisted forms of people Claire knew. "Tom!" she screamed, as one figure stepped forward. The light revealed his face. But something was wrong. It was no longer just the Tom she loved. Behind his eyes was a flicker of something wicked. "I'm sorry," he murmured, his voice trembling. "I had no choice." "Tom, what do you mean?" Panic seized Claire, her heart racing between despair and rage. "What did you do?" But the truth hit harder than any blow. "I'm not who you think I am," he confessed, his form flickering like a candle in the wind. "I'm bound to this curse. We all are." Claire felt the floor drop beneath her, everything shifting. "What are you saying?" she shrieked. But the ground shook again, and Sarah's face twisted in agony. "No, it's too late," her mother cried. "The bloodline, it's cursed. Every single descendant." In a frenzied rush, realization struck Claire. Her family, her love, everything she thought she understood unraveled before her eyes. "You mean this was planned? All along?" "Yes," Tom shouted, tears glistening in his eyes, but it was a twisted kind of pain. "But there's something more." Before he could finish, the shadows surged, merging into one dark form. It loomed larger, swallowing all light. Claire stumbled back, pressing against the rough stone wall, feeling its chill seep into her bones. Suddenly, a figure stepped through the darkness. It was a woman she had never seen, but there was something eerily familiar about her. The shadows shrank back, revealing her face, and Claire's breath hitched in her throat. "Clara?" she whispered, heart racing. "You're supposed to be dead." With a chilling smile, Clara replied, "And you're about to join us, sister." A cold wave washed over Claire. All the questions, who she was, where she belonged, flooded her mind. She gasped, the reality settling heavily. Had everything been a trap? Who was she really? The room pulsed with energy. Shadows. Closing in. Voices rose around her. An echo of her family, her past, twisted into laughter and malice. Tom, Sarah, Clara, all of them intertwined in a fate she had never understood. And as the shadows surged forward, pulling her into the depths of darkness, a single question pierced through the chaos. Would she embrace the curse, or fight against a destiny forged long before her birth? Claire felt the ground buckle beneath her feet, shadows reaching out like skeletal hands. Tom's anguished expression echoed in her mind, but the looming figure of Clara threatened to drown out all reason. "Sister," Clara cooed, a sickening sweetness clinging to her words. "You were never meant to fight this." Everything twisted, her heart pounding hard. Enough to burst. A wave of nausea rolled through her, thickening the air around her as Clara's gaze pierced into her soul. "You're the final piece, Claire. The curse needs you, needs your blood. It selects its keeper, and you've been chosen." "No, I refuse!" Claire cried out. "I won't let it control me." But the shadows laughed, a cacophony of sinister voices filling the air, drowning her out. The walls flickered between light and dark, suffocating hope with each heartbeat. She felt pulled toward Clara, an insidious magnetism, as if the shadows recognized her as their own. Suddenly, the room shifted again. The once cold stone walls melted away, revealing a phantom forest bathed in silver moonlight. Everything looked sharper, clearer, yet tinged with an unsettling stillness. Clara stood in the darkness, waiting. "Tom!" Claire shouted desperately, twisting around, her voice echoing into the night. But when she turned back, Clara was beside her, an unsettling smile flickering across her lips. "You're tired of fighting the inevitable, aren't you? You know deep down you're tied to this," Clara whispered, her voice smooth like silk. Claire felt a terrifying tug in her chest. "You're not real. You can't be." "Oh, but I am your true nature." Clara pointed toward the edge of the forest, where trees morphed into the shadows. "You have the power to unlock this, Claire, to accept who you are." With a surge of rage, Claire slapped her hand against Clara's arm, but her fingers grazed through a dark mist, feeling frighteningly empty. The shadows spiraled around her, whispering ancient secrets, clawing at the edges of her sanity. "Accept it. Embrace the darkness," Clara urged, laughter bouncing between the trees. "If you really want to save Tom, you'll need to accept your fate." Then, without warning, a force ripped through the air. The ground trembled violently, and Claire's knees buckled. The shadows writhed, and the earth cracked open beneath her, pouring forth a blinding glow. It was a warmth so fierce it cut through the overwhelming cold, catching her breath. "Claire!" Tom's voice shouted from somewhere above. "Fight it! You have to fight it!" She fought through the crushing darkness. "Come! Where are you?" she yelled, but he was lost in the chaos. Struggling against the weight of Clara's words, Claire felt a sudden clarity spark within her. "No!" she screamed, grasping for the truth. "I won't be a pawn any longer." The light surged around her, intensifying like a storm breaking. In that instant, the shadows recoiled, and with a deafening roar, the figure of Clara exploded into 1,000 pieces of obscuring darkness, revealing something else behind her. Behind Clara's exploded visage stood a gigantic ancient tree. Its bark glistened like obsidian, roots like tendrils curling at its base. Claire's heart raced as her blood surged with recognition. This wasn't just the curse. It was part of her lineage, a pulsating heart of centuries-old darkness. With a jolt, she realized the truth. "This tree," she gasped, "it's my family's legacy." But just as realization gripped her heart, a piercing howl erupted from deep within the forest. A creature, tall and shadowy like a wraith, emerged among the trees. It fixed its gaze upon her, eyes shimmering with an ancient intelligence. Panic struck her heart. "No, please." In that moment, everything tilted again. The creature lunged just as she screamed, but in that shriek of terror came a sudden clarity. Who was she really? The answer glimmered in the air, and with it, a choice that could shift the course of everything. Could she dare to embrace what she truly was? What price would? She felt the impending darkness close in, uncertainty mixing with dread, and the forest whispered in anticipation, waiting for her answer. As Claire faced the enormous tree, Pulses of energy crackled through the air, and her heart thundered with the weight of the truth. The creature's shadow loomed closer, drawing her into its chilling embrace. Fear tightened her throat, and as she stepped back, her eyes darted, seeking any sign of Tom. "Claire!" His voice shattered the silence, cutting through the oppressive tension. She turned, desperation clawing at her. But something felt different in his eyes, a flicker of conflict that sent her heart plummeting. "Tom, please! We need to fight this!" she called out, breaking through the wind. That howled around them. The shadows shifted, and the energy in the air crackled, thick with dread. But Tom didn't respond. Instead, he staggered forward, reaching for her, and for a split second, hope flared. Then, as he reached out, a blinding flash illuminated the forest, engulfing them in a light so bright it stung her eyes. Claire squinted, shielding herself with her hands. And then, everything shifted. The creature, the darkness, lost its form and began to dissolve into that brilliant light. The ground quaked again, harder this time. The shadowy walls around them shattered like glass, exploding into fragments of light and dark. "What's happening?" Claire gasped, overwhelmed by the chaos exploding around her. The energy surged, engulfing her in warmth and light. "Claire!" Tom shouted, worry etched across his features. "It's happening now!" And suddenly, she noticed a change. The forest, the shadows, the tree, it all began to pulse, synchronizing with her racing heartbeat. The power felt alive, and she could almost taste the thrill of it. But beneath that power lay something darker, a thread of malevolence woven tightly through it all. "Tom!" she shouted back, panic surging. "What do we do?" Just then, a bone-chilling roar erupted from the heart of the darkness, sending icy tendrils creeping up her spine. Claire pressed her back against the tree, feeling its rough bark heat beneath her hands. The shadows coalesced, swirling frantically, and in the center, another figure began to emerge. A woman, her eyes ablaze with anger, stepped forward, both terrifying and oddly familiar. "Clara!" Claire cried out. "What are you doing?" Clara's face twisted into a sinister grin, betrayal heavy in her eyes. "Oh, sweet sibling," she whispered, almost playfully. "You think you can fight this? You are destined to join me." Stunned, Claire stumbled backward, her heart racing. "Join you in what? I will never be like you." Clara laughed, a sound reminiscent of shattering glass. "That's where you're wrong. You're already part of it. Don't you see?" And then, suddenly, everything clicked. All those whispered secrets, the strange occurrences in the farmhouse, the wedding. The weight of her lineage collided with her consciousness, leaving her gasping for breath. "No, it can't be true!" she shouted, shaking her head fiercely. But Clara stepped closer, and the light flickered, revealing an unimaginable truth. "You are my other half-sister. The bloodline splits. One carries the light, the other the dark. You were always chosen to balance this curse, but they lied to you." Behind her, shadows laughed, encircling Claire, pulling at her. For every thread of truth Clara wove, the pull toward darkness grew stronger. Suddenly, waves of memories surged back, flooding her mind. Tom's lingering gaze, her mother's longing looks, her brother's hidden fears. Now they all slashed at her heart, revealing connections she never wanted to acknowledge. "No!" Claire screamed. "You're lying!" But Clara's smile transformed into something cruel and triumphant. "Let me show you." The darkness twisted into shapes, engulfing the forest in shadow as the blinding light faded. Claire felt a shift building, the air thickening, pulsating with raw energy. The shadows wrapped around her, claiming her as their own, binding her deep within a dark truth. "Fight it!" Tom's voice broke through the cacophony, urgent and desperate, but everything blurred, colors fracturing between light and dark. And in that moment, when it seemed she would be lost forever, a devastating realization swept over her. Tom, her love, was as entwined with this darkness as she was. His past, a weight she never saw, surged between them like a tide, twisting their fates together in a way she could never have expected. "Claire!" he cried, reaching out again, and the shadows around them writhed, their hunger palpable. As hope flickered, Claire looked into his eyes, feeling both love and confusion. How deep did this darkness run? She needed to know. But then she felt a piercing pain, a sharp sting in her arm. "Tom!" she gasped, energy pulsing through her. Blood dripped from her skin, pooling around her feet. "What's happening to me?" Claire's heart raced, and in that heartbeat, everything changed. Shadows and nightmares merged, and the fear of betrayal settled over her like a heavy blanket. "Embrace who you were meant to be," Clara hissed, and the forest echoed with that terrible mockery, twisting their lives like a cruel joke. The pain intensified, a blinding flash of light illuminating her surroundings. Claire gasped, feeling the darkness tighten its grip. Her heart raced, pulses of desperation crashing over her like a wave. Then, just when it seemed all hope was lost, an unexpected surge of strength ignited within her. Who was she truly? The question hung heavy in the air, pulling at her until it felt like the ground beneath her could crack open once more. But even as the shadows danced, that light within her flickered against the storm. And in that beat of silence, she realized everything she knew was at stake. The shadows convulsed around her, darkness compounding the pain that filled her chest. Clara's words echoed, wrapping around her like chains. "You were always meant to embrace this." It tore at her, threatening to yank her into the depths of despair. "No!" she shouted, feeling the heat of defiance rise within her. The shadows momentarily flickered, responding to her determination. "I choose my own destiny." With each word, a blazing light erupted inside her, illuminating the chamber with a fierce brightness. Clara's smug expression faltered, fear creeping into her eyes. "What are you doing?" "I'm rejecting this fate," Claire declared, clutching the pulsing energy within her. It swelled, reaching her fingertips. "You think I'll become a vessel for this curse? I won't." And just like that, she unleashed the light. It burst forth, slashing through the darkness, illuminating every corner of the chamber. The shadows shrieked, twisting and writhing, desperately trying to cling to her. "Tom!" Claire screamed, her heart pounding. With a flash, he appeared at her side, bathed in radiant light. His eyes met hers, filled with a mix of awe and disbelief. "Claire, you did it!" "Help me!" she cried. grounding herself in their shared love, the connection that transcended everything. Together they stood against the shadows, the power of their bond, ready to combat the curse. As the darkness roared and charged, they joined hands, their combined energy doubling, creating a barrier of light. "We can do this!" Tom shouted. "Yes," Claire echoed, feeling the pulse of her family's bloodline surge through her. The chamber shook, the ancient tree behind them trembling as their light sliced through the shadows. In that moment, Clara's form started to dissolve, her face contorting with rage and despair. "You fool! You'll regret this!" she screeched. But Claire stood firm, fueled by her worth. "I will never regret being who I am." With one final surge, their light blasted through the darkening forest, and the shadows splintered apart. They fell away like ashes in the wind, scattering into nothingness. And just like that, silence wrapped around them, a peaceful calm after the storm. The tree pulsed, its energy aligning with theirs, releasing waves of enlightenment. Claire felt the darkness within her, once haunting, now merely a shadow of the past. Freedom coursed through her veins, and she breathed in deeply, a weight lifting off her chest. Tom's hand tightened around hers, gripping tightly as his eyes brimmed with unshed tears. "We're free," he breathed, as realization dawned. "Yes, we are," Claire said softly. But in her heart she felt the echoes of her mother and brother. They were still lost in the shadows. "Claire." Tom's voice cracked, but she nodded, her lips pressed together in determination. "We will find them," she vowed. "They deserve the same freedom." Suddenly, a brilliant light erupted once more from the ancient tree, spreading warmth and hope into the air. Claire closed her eyes, allowing the energy to envelop her, a promise of solace for her family. And in that brilliance she made a wish, a glimmering hope for her loved ones. When she opened her eyes, she found herself back in the attic. The journal lay closed before her, silence surrounding her like a comforting cloak. "Tom?" she whispered, fear creeping into her heart again. But before she could panic, she felt his hand slip into hers. "I'm here," he said, relief flooding his gaze. "I thought," she began, but he silenced her with a finger pressed to his lips. "That's all behind us now," he assured gently, but Claire could see it, the flicker of shadows still lingering in the corners of her mind. And although they had won this battle, the war against the remnants of the curse was far from over. "Together," she whispered, squeezing his hand. "We'll face whatever comes next, together." But deep within, Claire wondered how far could they go to break free from the shackles of their bloodlines. Was true freedom even attainable, or would the darkness always call them back? As the night enveloped them, Claire felt the shadows shifting, a lingering reminder that their story was just beginning. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next chapter of this incredible journey. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and let everyone know how much you loved this conclusion. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Don't wait another second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. True fans like you understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. If you like stories about farmers, about everyday life on the farm, and want to know what really happens in the daily lives of the biggest farmers in the world, The hidden stories of the richest owners and the secrets of the farm girls that the media doesn't reveal? Check out our virtual book with the most famous and secret stories from the farm. Click on the first link in the video comments and get yours now.